And we are live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Positive Power Hour. I am your host, Dan McBee, along with my beautiful co host, my daughter, Nicole. Welcome to everybody that is joining us live and those of you joining by rebroadcast on the Mind Whispering YouTube channel. So I've got my banner up there, Nicole, as I do each week now with entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so that you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't. And I see we've already gotten some comments going here. Very good. Hi, Kimberlyn. Good to see you. Glad you're here. Happy Monday. Yes, by
Yeah,
the
happy
way,
Monday.
happy Monday. And that's the reason we do this show on Mondays is to make sure we get our week off on the right foot, right? That
Yes,
we're thinking positive about ourselves, we're feeling self-empowered, because the truth is nobody takes your power away from you. You give it away. And we all have. Let's be honest, right? We've all given our power away in one way or another, and sometimes we still do because it's the habits we get into, right? But the reality is, the more you become self empowered, and I believe really the more you become self empowered, the more you will tend to empower others. Because when you're feeling truly empowered, you don't need to take advantage of people. You don't need to belittle people. You don't need to step on people to get ahead. Because when you are self realized, when you are really in your God center, right? You recognize that you're not doing anything, God is doing it all, and that the best way you can live your life is by empowering others because you already have it, right?
yes,
And it's true with people that have addiction issues, that really what it boils down to is a lack of power, right? They don't believe in God, they don't believe in themselves, and so there's no power. You're just going through, kind of like running a rapid without a raft, right? You're just getting bounced around the rocks and beat up in the stream. Well, we get beat up in the stream of life when we're not empowered, right?
yes.
So the first thing we have to check on in ourselves every single day is our attitude, right? We talk about that all the time on our show, don't we?
Yes.
Why do we do that all the time, Nicole? Can you give them some insight as to why we do that?
Well, repetitive, uh, what is it?
Repetition is the way we
Repetition.
learn,
There we
right?
go. Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I knew you would know the right answer, right? And it's because we do have to, it's like I always get a kick out of people that says, if you don't get something they told you, they say, well, I already told you once. What? Right? Really? try
Let's try
telling
again.
try telling your child something once, see if they get it, right? Very rare. Then we're all children, right? We're all children of God, and we all have that childlike innocence within ourselves, that when we are self-empowered, or really God empowered, we can have that wide-eyed excitement for life and the enthusiasm about seeing new people and new experiences, and having that, oh wow, look at this, I hadn't seen that before, right? And when you get that, I can promise you your whole life changes, right? How do I know that, Nicole?
Because you've been there.
Been there, done that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the things I love about our program the most is that I get to give back by doing this, right? Because, you know, it has brought me to tears on more occasions than I can begin to mention. The amount of times that I've had the tears of gratitude, and wondered what in the world I did that was so wonderful that God would grace me with the awareness that I have today, that not many people have. And I know that's true because I see it every day, right? people that should be happy and joyous and free are living with that sense that we talk about all the time, the Walt Whitman saying about the huddled masses living in quiet desperation, right? Folks, our time here on earth is short. It may not feel that way to you, especially for the young ones like Kimmy and and Melinda and all the wonderful family members that join us on our calls and our friends. But life is short and it goes by really fast. And I can remember as a child, just like I'm sure you can, Nicole, is, when you're a young child, it's like, and you go on summer vacation, school lets out, right? And the days seem to go on forever, right? And it's like 8 o'clock and you can't keep your eyes open, and yet you don't dare go to bed yet, right? Because now they'll start putting you to bed at 8 o'clock every day, right? But you're so tired, you're just exhausted, right? And now it's like, wow, I just woke up a minute ago and it's 8 o'clock already, right? And that's the way life goes. And when you are released from that self-imposed prison, from that huddled masses living in quiet desperation feeling, then your days are just so different. And that's what I want to give to all of you, the people watching online, the people watching the recordings, the people that are joining us tonight, is do your best to allow yourself to let God run your life, right? It's so much easier. and that helps you to have that wide-eyed excitement, right? And the more hey, there's Ellie. Hey, she made it. Yay. So yes, that's, oh, by the way, I want to, now that we've got a few people on, I want to tease the fact that on my announcement this morning about our show tonight, I mentioned that we are going to have a what did I call it? A thought of the day, right? Thought of the day. And I'm going to tease you about it because I'm not going to tell you until the end of the program tonight. All right. But it's a thought of the day that the minute I say it, you'll go, wow, that's absolutely true. I wouldn't have thought of that, right? So it's that kind of thing. I mean, it's going to be fun. I promise you, you'll enjoy it. So I'm just going to tease that you got to stay to the end of the program tonight. However long that is, it might only be 2 more minutes, but we'll see. Thought of the day. So what is today? This is national, by the way, this is National Melanoma Month, for those of you that don't know. And it's obviously a topic very near and dear to my heart because I got to experience that cancer, right? And by God's grace, I had just an amazing experience going through it all. And I know how blessed I am to be able to say that because not everyone that gets cancer has that kind of experience. And I would imagine that I'm in a very small percentage of people that can describe the whole experience as being something positive and uplifting, right? Now, for those of you that might say, oh yeah, right, sure, having cancer is, a positive experience. It kind of goes back to what I say all the time, is that you can find a positive in everything, right? And which one is going to serve you and the world better? Being all wrapped up in the bad or being all wrapped up in the good, right? And I happen to believe, because I've had more than a few experiences in this, that when I can convert a negative to a positive, like having cancer and having to go through surgery and all that kind of stuff, if I can turn that to a positive, I know that it helps me heal faster and better, right? It also helps those around you in getting to understand that everything will be okay, right? No matter what. So it's National Melanoma Month. And in reading some of the information that was on Google, good old Google is our friend, right? It talked about the fact that white Caucasian people tend to get melanoma more than darker skinned people do. And that the older you get, the more likely it is that you'll get melanoma. And it's not always a big, what did I call it? A freckle or a big spot on. I had a big, huge melanoma spot on my back that had turned into melanoma. Sometimes it's just a skin cancer thing that just grows and gets worse. And the biggest challenge with melanoma is that there's no symptoms. You don't feel anything. And too often people don't feel anything until they've already reached the later stages of it, and there's not a damn thing you can do at that point, right? So pay attention. Because I was what I would call dark Irish, I always thought that the sun didn't bother me because I was darker skinned, right? And so I wouldn't use sunscreen, and I still don't very often, to be honest with you, unless I'm going to the beach or something and I'm going to be, really in it. But I just so my point is to don't be cavalier about it. All right. If you see a spot on your body that doesn't look like it did last month, don't ignore it. It's much better to spend $50 or $100 and have the doctor tell you you're fine and know that you are, than to ignore it and find out that you waited too long. All right. So yeah.
So I don't know that everybody heard your story of how you found out.
Oh, that is an amazing story, right?
Uh-huh.
So I had a cough one day. Well, I had it for a couple of weeks, and it just wasn't going away. And Melly says, here's got some more information. The further the equator, the more likely you'll get skin cancer. The more melanin you have, the more you're protected. You're still not 100% protected from the sun unless you apply a sunscreen. That's exactly right. Yeah, I agree with that completely. So I had this cough, and I made an appointment to go to Kaiser to get what they called at that time, and they still use them and still call them the golden pill. It's a little gel cap that has whatever ingredients in it that it has, but 98% of the time it just knocks out your cough. Just amazing, right? So I went in to get those, and as luck would have it, they assigned me to a nurse practitioner who happened to be a vegetarian. So we got to share stories about vegetarianism and why it's such a good thing, and why she's a vegetarian. So we had a nice connection going. And as I'm getting ready to leave, she's given me the prescription, and she says, "Oh, before you leave, we ought to check. Take your shirt off. We all check and see if there's anything we need to be aware of." So I took my shirt off, and she looked at my back, and she says, "Oops, we got to get you over to the doctor right now." So within a day or two, I was in to see the skin doctor. They take what looks like a melon ball scoop, right? And they scoop out the mole. That's what it was a mole, right? Big old mole on my back. And I had to wait several weeks and for the answer. I'm sitting at a Thai restaurant in Orange County waiting to see one of my clients. And the doctor calls and says, "Well, it is cancer, and we have to do surgery." Right. So my immediate thought was, well, if this is the way God's taking me out, then this is the way God's taking me out. Right. And if they caught it early, problem solved. And if they didn't catch it early, problem solved. Either way, it's going to take care of itself. Right. Kind of the way I live my life, isn't it, Nicole?
Mm-hmm.
So, that's when you really start to trust God and let God run your life. You quit trying to be the director so much. And you say, okay, well, let's just see how this plays out, right? So, and I've told this story before too, I know, about the woman that was in my checkout line one day after she made her purchase. She just stood there staring at me, and I said, "Is there something I can help you with?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm waiting for my doctor to call me to tell me if I have cancer." I said, "Oh, you came to the right line," right? So I got to share with her exactly the story that I've shared with you about how, if they caught it early, problem solved. And if it caught it late, problem solved. Either way, it's in God's hands, not in my hand, right? And she just looked at me and she goes, "Oh my God, I totally forgot to include God in this whole thing." I say, "Oh, That's where we get all messed up, right? As we try to run the show. The show's already been written. It's already in production. It's already in the can, as they say in movie land, right? It's already done. Any effort that we make to try to change the script is just exhausting and unproductive, right? But if you can stay positive and you can stay relaxed, your body has the best chance to heal itself, right?
Yes.
And putting better things in your body helps as well, right? If you're eating junk all the time, well, cancer loves sugar, by the way, right? So, I like sugar. We all like sugar to some degree, right? But we try to cut it down as much as we can because it's just not all that good for us. So anyway, that was my melanoma journey, right? It was, when I went in to have the surgery, I won't even go there. That's all right. But my doctor had a very funny sense of humor. And he said, "Was the nurse nice to you?" I said, "Yeah, I said, "I was a little surprised when she reached in and grabbed my groin," right? She goes, "Oh yeah, that's how we say hello around here." And I said, but everybody was just so nice, right? So kind. And I never will forget the pre-op doctor explaining to me that they were going to be cutting from the middle of my back down at the lower section of my back, all the way to the side of my side. So it was like a 6 or 8 inch cut, I guess, right? If I look in a mirror, I can, if I hold a mirror back there, I can kind of see it, but it doesn't seem like it's all that big to me. But he told me that for the first few weeks, if I were to as much as bend like this, I'd be in excruciating pain. I said, well, okay, if that's what I have to look forward to, then that's the way it'll be, right? The next morning after the surgery, I got up and I felt fine, and we needed some stuff at Costco, so I went to Costco after surgery, right? And I'm on my way out of Costco, and the phone rings, and it's my wonderful son-in-law, Garrett, saying, "How are you doing, Pop?" And I said, "Well, I'm doing fine." He goes, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm at Costco." He said, "Are you crazy? You just had surgery." And I said, "Well, yes, I am, but I feel just fine." So yeah, I went to Costco, and I was back at work 3 days later, right? Or 4 days, I think it was. Not very long. And again, that's grace, right? And I'm aware of that. I didn't do anything to make that way, except for maybe staying in a positive light, right? But that was grace. And the truth of the matter is, the more we stay positive, the more we stay in the moment, the more you're aware of God's grace.
Yes.
It's happening all the time. It's just that we're so wrapped up in tomorrow or what happened yesterday that we aren't even aware of what's happening in the moment, right? That's why I always call the present the gift from God, because that's where all the magic happens. So if you're not experiencing magic, if you're not experiencing grace, if you're not experiencing exciting things every day, I'll guarantee you're either spending too much time in the past or too much time in the future, or both. But you're probably not spending a whole lot of time in the present, right? And if you can embrace that idea of the present being the gift from God, and that all he asks you to do is be there in the present, right? So you can experience his gifts. Does that sound crazy? No? Does that make sense?
To me, yes.
Yeah, okay. How about you, Melly? Does that make sense to you? How about you, Kimmy? Does that make sense to you? That the present is the gift from God? See, I'm trying to elicit comments from the gallery, right?
Oh, I thought you were going to say peanut gallery.
Program, huh?
I thought you were going to say the peanut gallery.
Well, I was gonna, but then I thought, well, yes, says Melly. Yay! I know it's easier just to sit back and listen, right? But your comments really help. They really do. And the past already happened and the future isn't promised. The present is what we have.
Yes.
If we'll take it, right? If we'll be there, if we'll be in the moment, right? It's amazing how exhausting. And, I remember being so wrapped up in the past of all the mistakes I made and everything. And I'm getting ready to take Richard to track and field training. Wow. What an athlete. What I always joke, and it's a joke, but it's really true, is that God didn't give me anything, right? I mean, I have no athletic ability whatsoever. They used to pick white women before me on baseball teams, right? I can't dance. I can't sing. My mom could swim like a swan, and I sank like a boat anchor. Can't, I could water ski on 2 skis, but try as hard as I could never master the single ski. And yet they'd all say it was the easier way of skiing. So, it took me a long time in the journey of self-discovery to understand what my gifts were. Because what my gifts are, I thought everybody had, right? You understand that one, don't you, Nicole?
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have that, right? We think there's really nothing special about us, that everybody's got that or more. And there's a train of thought that's called reverse ego, right?
Yeah.
Is that I'm so flawed, God made everything else perfect, but he really screwed up on me. That's how special I am, right? So, it's when you look like I did as a kid. I got to find that picture. I'll have to make a note to do that for next week, because I talk about the fact that when I was a young man, I looked like Alfred E. Newman, which was the caricature on Mad Magazine. Have you seen that, Nicole? The Alfred E. Newman?
I think so.
Okay. And if any of the audience has seen that, I would love to hear that you've seen it. Well, Mom is perfect, so she has it all. Whoa! How about that?
I'll pay you later.
But when you look like Alfred E. Newman, when I had polio when I was a kid, right? So I had muscle damage in my eyes. And the way they treated it back then was to put really strong lenses on your glasses to try to strengthen the eyes to pull in, or whatever it was. I don't recall at this point. But, so I had these really big, thick glasses. I had buck teeth. I had big ears that stuck out like this, right? They were just huge. And, so I got all the names like, hey, there's Dumbo Four Eyes, right? And, all kinds of things that kids do, and they're cruel when they're young, right? They're just cruel. And so there was no self-esteem, right? Yeah. And so working through all of that felt so hard at the time. And I'll never forget one day I was at a church in Temecula. It was a metaphysical church, right? And we're having a buffet lunch kind of thing. It was a potluck. Everybody brought food for lunch. And this one woman that I knew for quite some time there came up to me and she says, well, let me see if I've got this right. You don't smoke, you don't drink, you don't do drugs, you're a vegetarian, and you meditate. How is anybody supposed to live up to that? Well, I don't know. I was stunned by that comment, right? It was like that was beyond reach of most people. Well, no, it isn't. It's just making decisions, right? For me, they were decisions that worked for me. I don't put them, as you know, I don't put them on anybody else. Everybody can live their life the way they want to. But for me, it was the stepping stone of developing self-esteem, right? There were a lot of steps, right? And a lot of them we talk about on our show here, because whether you admit it to anybody else, chances are great that your self-esteem could use a notch up, right? All of us could. I can feel better about myself. I can be more confident about what I do. and more forgiving when I don't reach the goals that I set for myself, right?
Yeah.
So it's all that constant growth, and they've got commercials going on now for therapy, where you can hire somebody online, right? And if you don't like them, you can switch. And but they talk about that the journey of life, the journey of self-discovery never ends, because you constantly changing, right? So it's like you constantly have to go through a rediscovery of your values, of who you are, what's important to you. All of those things constantly change. And I can remember talking with somebody who said that you don't talk about your problems with other people because those are your problems and they're for you to deal with. And yeah, exactly. How can you grow if you're staying in the same stuck head that's got you in that place in the first place? You need feedback by people who perhaps have already experienced what you're going through, people who make it safe for you to share what you're going through, right? Someone who's really got your back, who isn't there to slam you or to belittle you or tell you you're stupid and you shouldn't feel that way. God, I can remember how many times, and they meant well. God love them, my parents, right? Would say, well, you shouldn't feel that way, right? Well, gee, now I'm a mess because I feel that way. Right? Cheryl says, yeah, hi, Cheryl. Always
Hi,
good to know that
Cheryl.
you're here with us. She is such a great lady. Yeah.
You
And
can't fix a broken mind with a broken
well,
mind, right?
exactly right, Nicole. Exactly right. And the problem is that keeps building up like a boogeyman, right? It's that living in that closet of shame and guilt and blame and all that stuff that, oh God, it's just exhausting, right? And yes, if you're constantly if you're constantly regurgitating the same information that this thing is feeding you all the time, you're like a hamster on a hamster wheel, right? You're just spinning and spinning and spinning and nothing gets fixed, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we do the power hour, right? Is we want you to get off that hamster wheel. We want you to recognize that you are a perfect child of God, just as you are, right? And whether you change even a little bit is really up to you. Do you want to? Do you
Yes.
want to make some changes? Right? Are there some aspect, and the easy thing is to say, well, my life would be perfect if only she would change, or if only he would change, right? Or if
I
that
get it.
dog would quit barking, right? Or whatever the case might be. And that's not what we're talking about here. That's not the kind of change. I've seen more marriages that look like they were going to end be fixed because they took a look at themselves inside rather than the other person. Because it's not the other person that's making you miserable.
Nobody else can make you happy.
Exactly right,
It's an
right?
inside job. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you get happy inside, what do you think that does to your spouse, to your partner in life?
Well, you communicate better all the years, right?
Yeah.
Everything's,
The
you
walls
know.
come down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't give them that look of death when they walk in the door, because they're probably feeling just as flawed as you are, right? To make it someone's job to make you happy, that's selfish. Yeah, that's true.
And it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. It's just exhausting for both of you, because no matter how hard they try, they're going to fail. So you're setting them up and you're keeping yourself miserable. For what?
Yeah.
Right? It's happiness. I say it, we say it frequently on our show, Nicole, and I'm going to keep on saying it because we learn how. How do we learn? Repetition, right? So we're going to repeat it often and often and often. And that is that happiness is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice. You choose whether to be miserable or whether to be happy. And I haven't mastered it either. Okay. I'll have these days where things are going crappy at work and I'll just find myself just all frustrated over the whole thing. Right. And I have to give myself a little time out. So, whoops, wait a minute. Not your problem.
Yeah.
You just take care of what you can control. Leave the rest of it alone. Right. And I'm getting better at it. I got to practice, I must say, because look, I'm an entrepreneur, right? I have the two major, what's the word I want? Character defects that I have. The two major ones are being an alcoholic and an entrepreneur, right? Because both of them are people that don't like authority. They don't like being told what to do, and they're pretty sure they got a better way of doing it than the people that are doing it, right? And that's me. I admit that's me. I want to do it my way. I want to be this guy right here. And it's what I put every extra day in my life into doing, is doing those, for me, it's living 40 years of my life like most people won't, so that maybe someday I can spend the rest of my life like most people can't, right? But it's my goal, it's my dream, right?
Yes.
And as I say to people all the time, a job is realizing somebody else's dream. It's not realizing your dream. So if if being if having a job is a career that is something you want, God bless you. I hope you find one that makes you happy and makes your soul sing, right? I haven't found that job yet. You have to learn to be happy in any environment, right? But for me, where I really want to be is home, making products that I know help you live your life easier and better, right? Spend time coaching and supporting and encouraging each of you to live life in that moment, so that you can get to live the kind of life that most people can't, or that most people won't, because they don't even realize there is a different way. And then I'll remind everybody of this one: be still and know that I am God. Would you agree that being still would mean that you're in the moment?
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't have that mind just going, right? Be still, be calm, smile. I had a young lady come up to me yesterday. Sundays have just been absolutely nuts in the retail world. It's like everybody and their brother must have gone to church and then decided to go to Best Buy right afterwards, right? And you're waiting in a long line to pay for something that you want, and you get to the front and you take your frustrations out on the cashier, and and you get a little ugly, and yet there was this young lady who walked up and she says, "Oh my God, you have the most beautiful smile." She said, I've been watching you in line, and you just radiate with this happiness and this joy." And I said, "Well, thank you for telling me that. That's very kind of you," right? And that's that difference that we can make without even trying, right? You do it. I know you do, Nicole. I see you, right? You have that same ability. God gave it to both of us, right? Of knowing that we can change somebody's day with just a simple smile.
Yes.
And what a wonderful thing that is. Here a young lady who, had just had to wait in line to buy two little items, was grateful that she came up to a cashier who had that kind of smile, who made her feel that good, right? And we all can do that. And most of us do to some degree. Imagine how much more you would do it if you did it with intent. If that was what your whole purpose of being was to share that what's the sunlight of the spirit, right? That joyousness, that happiness, that God loving giddiness that comes over you when you're really in that. And I know you felt that, right? And,
Yes.
yeah, and not a lot of people do. It's not a religious thing, it's a spiritual thing. To me,
Yeah.
there's a big difference, right? So, how do you want to spend the rest of your life? Do you want to live like the huddled masses, living in quiet desperation? Or do you want to live like Melinda, who is raising such beautiful children in a house full of love and happiness and joyousness and spirituality and encouragement, all of those things that make such a big difference, right? You live your life with no thought for yourself. Just how can I be of service
Yeah.
to my children, to my spouse, to my parents, to my community, right? And those are positive steps that really are easy to embrace. It's like the woman saying, those 5 things that I do in my life, how can anybody live up to that? Well, anybody can. It's just whether you choose to or not,
And
right?
it's not a competition.
No, no.
Yeah.
Competition within yourself, right? Can I be better today than I was yesterday?
Right. But I
Right?
need to live up to your standards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I look, there's not a lot of people that want to live my life, I'm sure, right? And that's quite okay. But, live up to your standard, whatever that is, right? I guarantee you that there are not many people capable of walking on water. Although I do remember the day I came home to Nicole and I said, "Hey, do you know I can walk on water?" And she looks at me like, "Uh-oh." And so I said, "Yeah, I can." She goes, "Oh yeah?" I said, "Yeah." And I took a cup of water, poured it on the floor, and walked on it. Right? You remember that?
Yep.
Yep.
I do.
Poor thing. Stuff you've got to endure. It's like Kate. I don't know how she does it. Now, I always tell people in the store that, my wife and I have been married for 30 years now, right? That woman has a high pain tolerance.
Millie just commented.
Oh, yeah? Let me find it. Here we go. What do we got? My job is to make sure I don't send little a-holes out to the world. Laugh out loud. We are just doing the best we can with the information we've been given. Well, that's exactly right. And really, it's very simple, right? It's just talk to your children and remember that you teach them more by what you do than you do by what you say, right? Because how many times have all of us as parents go, why? Because I said so.
There was just something out on the news that made me kind of chuckle, and that was that, with finicky eaters these days, we found that the best way that kids love veggies is to watch their parents eat veggies. And I thought, duh.
Like how I got you to love broccoli?
Yeah, and avocados.
Brussels sprouts. Remember that?
Yep.
So for those of you that don't know that story, when Nicole and her brother were young children, her mom would buy me these packets of Jolly Green Giant Brussels sprouts in cheese sauce because the kids didn't like broccoli and Brussels sprouts, and she didn't either, right? And so it was a very loving thing. She would buy those for me so that I'd have a vegetable that I really enjoyed. And so she'd bring the plate out, and the kids would look at it and go, "Oh, those look awful! Oh God!" I said, "I am so glad you don't like these because I get to eat them all. These are so good." And I'd cut them, and I just enjoy every second of having them, right? And of course, it wasn't that long before it was, "Can I try one?" But if I had, which most parents do, said, "You're going to sit there until you eat those and you're going to love them," right? How good does that work? It
Not
doesn't,
at all.
right? So, I've always found in my life that positive reinforcement always works better than negative reinforcement. It just does. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just Pollyannish to the point that I've got rose-colored glasses on and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But I do know because I've seen it too many times, right? When you care more about the growth of somebody than you do about the numbers or you do about the whatever it is, right? If you have a real care about helping that person achieve whatever it is their goals are, right? If you can help them to feel more confident about themselves, if you can help them to realize that if they choose to just be happy, they'll learn better, they'll perform better, their whole day will go better without much of a change at all. It's just an attitude thing. And here Cheryl is saying it doesn't work, and the children end up sitting at the table until they fall asleep. Yep. Sounds like the voice of experience, right?
I used to.
You used to. Yeah, because when Nicole was a young girl, she wasn't all that crazy about eating. It wasn't a very big thing to her. She would just, yeah, yes, she says, Cheryl says, yes. She would just as soon daydream or think, go off into la la land in her thoughts and just didn't care. It just didn't matter to her, right? And her mom, God rest her soul, would say, you got to eat your dinner, right? And I said, Joanne, just let her go. When she's hungry, she'll eat, right? But that's what we do because that's what our parents did, right? And as parents and really as people, we go through life the way we were shown until we develop a level of discernment, that we take a look at things and go, wait a minute, that's what my parents said, but that's not what my experience has been, right? Or just think for yourself, right? George, who was it? John Lennon, I think, wrote a song about think for yourself because I won't be there with you, right? And it's about, learning, no matter what other people are doing or what other people are saying, it doesn't matter. It's what works for you that matters. It's your life, right? And so that's a really big important thing is to realize that you have the right to live your life the way you want to. And if you aren't living it that way, then you're disempowering yourself, right? It doesn't mean that you're going to have success overnight. First of all, you got to define what success means to you, right? Success for me means that I was able to go through my day without hurting somebody in some way or another, right? A real successful day for me is when I don't allow anything to affect my happiness because that's my choice, right? I give up that power when I get upset about something outside of my control, right?
I call it the shift. I
Yeah,
shifted. Ah, darn it.
yeah, right. So the more I can stay in that happy, joyous, and free feeling and allow other people to have whatever it is they need to have, and whatever's going on is not my responsibility. And if they shoulds, right? They should do it this way and they should do it that way. And what are they doing? And God, I hate that. And yet I still do it sometimes. I still catch myself, right? But what's the difference between now and in the past? For me, the difference is I don't beat myself up anymore. I can take a look at it and go, okay, I did that again. Let's make an adjustment and go on, right? It's kind of like that baseball player story we've talked about. And Richard, I'm sure, can relate to this, being the ace athlete he is in the family, right? Is that you can't dwell over past failures. You can go 0 for 4. And I told you about my friend whose son was a very gifted athlete, but he couldn't handle the failure. It just ate him up, right? So he just said I had to quit because it was killing me. I could be okay when I was going 4 for 4, but if I was 0 for 4, it was just horrible. And that's what great athletes have to master more than their physical attributes, is their mental attribute. They have to become strong-minded, right?
Yeah.
And we all do. It's just that we don't. It's kind of like that entrepreneur thing, right? About spending a few years in the way most people won't, so they can live their life in a way most people can't. It's like for me becoming a vegetarian and becoming a meditator and doing no drugs and, no alcohol and all of those things. Those are things I did as a choice because I wanted to have a better life. And the way I was, what happened for me was I came to the realization that all the things that I really treasured the most, women, chicken and shrimp and drinking and drugs and partying and all that kind of stuff, were the very things that were making my life miserable.
Yeah.
Right? But you don't see it when you're in it.
Yeah.
So for those of you watching on the recording, or those of you joining us on the show tonight, whatever it is that you're doing that isn't working for you, pay attention to it. Take a look at it. Say, okay, I can change this. That's empowering yourself, right? Because you can. There's nothing that I can't be Shaquille O'Neal. I can't be a center for the Lakers or anything like that, right? But within my own physical ability, and there is very little that I can't accomplish if I apply myself. How long it's going to take, I don't know. I'm still become a successful businessman, right? I feel I'm a successful human, but I'd still like to have a taste of success in the business. And I've had taste. That's not, it's not like nothing's ever good happened. But I'd like to see it be more abundant. And I believe we're heading in that direction. So we're at 6:47 at the moment, and we're going to probably end a little bit early, but I wanted to mention the thought for the day. So here it is. Everybody ready?
Drum roll.
Drum roll. Why do they call it hemorrhoids? Wouldn't asteroids be a lot more descriptive? Wouldn't asteroids be a lot more accurate?
But what would you call asteroids?
Rocky Mountains, I guess, right? But right? Doesn't asteroids make a lot? Molly says yes. Laugh, laugh, laugh.
Oh, goodness.
Yes, asteroids. So that's the thought of the day. It actually was presented by somebody at work the other day. So this guy came up to her and said, "Hey, I got a thought of the day for you." And he told her this, right? That wouldn't asteroids be more appropriate? Absolutely true. So Nicole, now that we're coming up to 6:50, just about 6:50, we're doing all right. If you see somebody out there tomorrow and they don't have a smile, what should you do?
Give them one of mine.
And why would you do that?
Because they're free and it'll make them feel good.
Yeah, and it makes you feel good too, right?
Yeah.
Just like that young lady at the store yesterday, right? Oh my God, you made my day, right? By that smile that you had. I had a customer that was before them that had smoke coming out of her ears because she had horrible what's the word I'm looking for? Customer service, right? They just wouldn't take care of whatever it was she needed to take care of. And she was just pissed about it, right? Came up to me and she starts venting about why she's so upset and everything, right? And within about a minute, I had her laughing and smiling, right? And she said, "You've done more in 1 minute than customer service did the whole time I was working with them." I said, "Well, I got you to smile and I got you to laugh, right?" And she goes, yeah, you've made my whole experience different.
Awesome.
And what did that cost me?
Zilch.
Nothing, right? Just a little understanding. Yeah, ma'am, I'm really sorry you're going through that, right? So when you see somebody out there tomorrow, and I'm sure you will see somebody who's not having a good time, you can help turn it around with just a little smile, just like my daughter's beautiful smile there, right? Yeah, right. And the beautiful smile I know that everybody on our channel here has, because I've seen them all, right? So until next week, I'll come up with another thought of the day, and we'll get together and remind each other that we are all children of God. We're all doing the best we can, and we're always going to strive to do a little better. So until next week, everybody take good care of yourself so you can take good care of others. All right?
Be still and be present.
Be
Practice,
still and
practice.
be present and know that I am God, right? Perfect. All right, guys. I love you all. Take good care. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.